happen amidst these NBA Finals? The sun appears to be setting on Kevin Durant's run in Phoenix. Shams reporting yesterday the Suns and KD's business partner, Rich Kleinman, have met multiple times over the past week, sifting through trade scenarios. And Shams reports the teams that have expressed interest include the Rockets, the Spurs, the Heat, the Timberwolves, and the Knicks. So let's start with the win man. Windy, what can you tell us about Kevin Durant and his future?
Well, there's a couple of things we have to remember here. Number one, we have to remember that Kevin Durant makes $55 million. And to put a trade like that together, you're going to need a significant number of high-dollar players. And so when you're looking at Durant's choices, if he's truly going to be able to get a say here, you have to have a good team on the other side of a Durant trade that he would be interested in. The second thing is that he only has 1 year left on his contract. So as he chooses which team he may favor, it may come down to which one of these teams have interest in giving him a $100 million contract extension he is eligible for. So you have to compute that. Once I've said all that, point out that the teams that fit that bill the most are teams like San Antonio and Houston, who could make this trade and on the other side of it have a roster that could compete for the highest titles, the highest stuff in the league. But those teams are on different timelines because those teams are built with players in their mid to early 20s, whereas Durant is 37. It may not fit the same timeline where they would invest $100 million into him. So this is complicated, and I expect other teams that were not on this list to remain in the bidding here, and this could go a number of different directions.
Jay, Will, when it comes to KD, I always turn to you.
I personally feel that the best fit is Minnesota. Number one, it's like Outlaws, right? It's like Tupac and Snoop on the album cover. I mean, that is Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant. USA Basketball was an incredible time for them. You saw their bond continue to mature. Anthony Edwards does not call any player in the world his favorite player. He's one of the most competitive dudes you ever met. He'll call KD that. And Mark Lore, Alex Rodriguez, new ownership in Minnesota. If it's a year deal, I would sign KD to an extension because it helps Anthony Edwards get to the next level. He's a superstar, but Anthony Edwards can become a supernova if he has KD by his side.
What do you think?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, 100% KD and Ant-Man makes the most sense, right? They're both two players that just talks about ball. That's all they want to do is hoop. Forget all the other stuff. It's just about basketball. KD has been like that his entire career. Ant-Man is coming around to that with him saying, I don't want to be the face, I just want to hoop. It's a perfect relationship. Hey, man, I think y'all both said it back.
That's it. So that's where you're looking.
It's between them and the Knicks. Like, you know, they both have the right assets when you come, like, matching the money up, right? Like, they have Julius Randle, a couple other guys that's making a significant amount of money that you can match that up with. Like Wendy said, like, you have to have the pieces to
KD
actually
plus
fit.
Anthony Edwards, in your opinion, equals winning the West next year?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
With ancillary pieces around him, yeah.
Yeah,
Hands down.
I mean, they've been in the conference final each of the last 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And then what does KD plus the Knicks equal? Let's live in a world where, and Wendy said it on this show the other day, in order to make a KD trade, the Knicks would probably have to include Karl Towns.
Yeah.
So in a world in which the Knicks traded Karl-Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant and whatever else got shifted around in that, does that team go to the finals?
That has to be wait to see when you choose a coach, right? Like, I feel like KD has to go where somewhere.
Oh, we'll get to that part.
System. Like, I can't say he can go to the Knicks.
Are you interested in coaching the Knicks?
Yes,
Because
I am.
candidly, they're
Put
looking
me up
for
there.
people.
Hey, put me up there, man.
I'll say Kevin Durant is still a 1A player.
Yeah.
And I think the odds of them getting to the NBA Finals in the East is way better than what the odds are right now with the way the Knicks are currently
Help me with
constructed.
1A. Are you saying Jalen Brunson is their 1A right now and Towns is their 1B, and that would switch if Durant was there?
Well, no, I think you have two 1As.
Yeah.
I think you have guys that
two
can
legit.
Yeah, two legit superstars that can do it and carry the load. Right now, at this age, Kevin Durant's not going to take on the main load for the main course of the season, right? But
Right.
Jalen Brunson can do that, and then they can flip-flop in moments where you need them to be closers.
Right.
It gives you two multi-dimensional closers and two buckets in the game of basketball in New York City.
Easily.
It's an interesting, Wendy, KD is such an interesting figure, right? He's just a different guy. And it's very difficult to put yourself in his head and know exactly what it is he's looking for. He's moved around so many different times. What is our sense of what he's looking for at this point? And what is our sense, if we have one, of what a timeline on this might be?
Well, I definitely think he's got interest in the Knicks. He has interest in the Knicks going back 6-7 years when he was a free agent in 2019. He chose the Nets, but he's got interest in the Knicks. The reality is this: you're either trading an in your prime all NBA player under long-term controlled contract in Karl Towns, or to make the math work and make it a legal trade, you're probably trading 3 rotation players, 2 high-level rotation players like an OG Anunoby and a Mitchell Robinson, something like that. And so the Knicks are already short on the rotation players. So you have to look at it if you're the Knicks, if on the other side of trading for a $55 million player, are you ready to compete for the whole thing now, instantly? He's 37, you're not building. You could get different opinions on that, but I would just say do not disregard a 20-year-old, in his 20s, all-NBA player that Karl Towns is. That's not a player that you can easily find. They've invested a lot in him, and that's the type of trade that you'd have to make. And, all-NBA player for all-NBA player, I don't know. I don't know if you automatically win that trade.
Now, as we have looked at this thing from the Knicks' perspective, I've said all along, if they can get Giannis, it's worth doing almost anything. Because Giannis is 7 years younger. This is not meant to slight Kevin Durant at all. He's one of the greatest players that ever lived and maybe the best pure scorer that ever lived. But he's going to be 37 years old. If you're the Knicks, do you do it? Do you trade Karl-Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant?
I think that's tough right now, man. I think it's like you said, it's the pieces around. If I can get some of those pieces to stay, obviously he's making $55 million. But if I can get some of those pieces to be around without Karl-Anthony Towns, for sure I'd make the trade.
And the last thing is, how much do players think about this stuff? I sit here and say, go east, go east, go east. If you're Kevin Durant and you want to win, go east. Do players think that way?
I think, if I'm talking to Kevin Durant circumstance, I think it's the best fit for him. I don't know if it's technically about all winning, right? Like when you talk about his game and like just wanting to play hoop and wanting to score and be happy, right? I don't know if it's all about winning with him. So if I was to dial it back, I think that Minnesota just makes more sense because of the continuity that he has with Ant.
The New York Knicks are now 0 for 5 in their head coaching interview requests as they look to replace Tom Thibodeau. They were denied in their efforts to interview Ime Udoka and Chris Finch and Jason Kidd and Quinn Snyder, and then last night, reportedly, Billy Donovan as well. So this is turning into something of an embarrassment, and Charles Barkley had harsh criticism of the Knicks.
The Knicks got to be the stupidest damn people in the world. Like, you don't fire no good coach like that and don't have a plan. Tibbs did a hell of a job. Obviously, something's going on there, but they don't have a plan now. I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
Okay, and so we should point out that in addition to the NBA coaches they've been denied permission to talk to, Jay Wright has said he doesn't want the job. Rick Pitino has said he doesn't want the job. Dan Hurley has said he doesn't want the job.
Ted Lasso.
So we have we have no shortage of people who will not be the next head coach of the New York Knicks. Where does this lead? They look right now, it looks embarrassing. There's something about me that wants to say they've got something up their sleeve, but I, for the life of me, don't know what it is. What is your perspective from where you sit in front of that armoire?
Well, let me say 2 things. First off, I can see and I have seen teams have interest in maybe one coach that has another job. But when you make the decision to fire your coach, you have to pay attention to who's available. And this is where this doesn't make any sense. They seem to be prioritizing people who are not available. But I will say, just because they've heard no's on all of these candidates, don't necessarily think that those are no's forever. And I do think the interesting name, the first time I've actually scratched my chin on this is with the name Billy Donovan, because that's a coach who you possibly could see maybe wanting to exit out of that situation. The Bulls have entered a rebuild. He left the Oklahoma City Thunder when they were interested in doing the full rebuild that they're now built for. And so, he's got New York ties. That one makes some sense that they maybe could get that coach and that Billy Donovan would maybe have wandering eyes. But he appears to have been 5th or 6th or 7th down the list. He should have been at the top of the list if you were looking for coaches that you could poach. It doesn't make sense to poach coaches that are on teams that have just had highly successful seasons and are in the middle of long-term contracts. So I think that they have failed in their strategy here and how they've approached this decision.
So look, here's the only thing I can say, Windman. Obviously, that may be a little bit of a jolt there in the in the hotel room. But here's the only thing I will say. Like, the people we have repeatedly pointed out here, the Knicks have been a laughingstock for a quarter of a century. They are not now. the people running the Knicks have some idea what they are doing. Leon Rose, who runs the Knicks, and while I don't know what his voice sounds like, he knows what he's doing. There's no way they fired Tom Thibodeau and said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to ask for permission to talk to every coach in the league who's under contract and see what falls our way. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, Jay Will. I feel like there's a plan here we haven't seen yet. I feel like there has to be something up their sleeve.
You do not fire your coach and not have a strategy.
Right.
You don't do that.
This can't be the strategy, right?
So I hear Chuck, and I hear how people want to blow gaskets over it, but there has to be a strategy. Also, you know, I know that we talk about free agents in the game. We have conversations around KD. We have conversations around Giannis. Historically, free agents do not make these type of decisions until we get to July. So there has to be a little bit of a delicacy here of, if we're going after player A, who does player A mess with as coach A? If we're going after player B, who does player B mess with from a coach B perspective? There's a lot of fluidity here, and I don't think the Knicks need to be in a rush at all. Okay. I think they can take their time. They're the only team with a free opening vacancy in the head coaching slot right now.
Yes. Oh, by the way, that is the only coaching vacancy in the entire NBA right now. I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm guessing this is what you're saying. If they get Giannis, then they're going to want this coach. And if they get KD, then they're going to want this coach. And if they get neither of them, then they're going to want this coach.
Well, I mean, you're a host of a big-time show. Don't you want to say who your producer is?
Right.
1,000, I mean, it's that easy.
So what you're saying.
To some degree. You want to see
reversing the order. Go ahead, Windy, go.
There's not going to be a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade in the short-term future. The league has come to terms with the realization that the Bucks are going to keep him, and Giannis is not going to ask for a trade. I can't speak to what might happen in August. They can't pin any coaching decision on Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they probably shouldn't plan to do it on Kevin Durant either, because I don't think they're in the best position to trade for him. I think you should remove those two options. Remove those two as any indications on how they might approach their.
So I just want to make sure I'm hearing you clearly, Wendy. So you're saying the options of KD and Giannis are no more in New York City?
I am saying Giannis Antetokounmpo is not getting traded before the Knicks are hiring a coach. Okay, so you can't pin the coach to what you may do on a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade. And I think a Kevin Durant trade is going to be very complicated for the Knicks. I do not think that you can make your decision based on the acquisition of one of these star players.
Okay, so let's leave it there for the moment. We'll have to wait and see. There's so many moving pieces, and they're all surrounding the same team. So let's just come right over here. What do you think? Who of this group? Like, what do you like? What do you like for the coaching hire, and how? Charles Barkley said they look ridiculous right now. Do you feel like the Knicks look ridiculous right now?
I think the Knicks start will probably be a little bit easier because of, if you're looking at the landscape of the East right now, you have Boston, you know, they're looking to rebuild.
Right.
And New York just got to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I thought, in my eyes, I'm thinking that they're seeing, oh, somebody will want to coach this team. Like, this is an open job. This is New York City. But at the same time, we see how many times they fire coaches, how many times coaches are in the hot seat. So if you have coaches at other places that have stability, it kind of like throws a wrench in it, right? Because why would I leave a team where I have stability or I know I'm gonna be here, and if I don't win next year because the Celtics aren't around, what happens after that year?
He makes an interesting point. Maybe one could argue Tom Thibodeau maxed out what this roster was, and other coaches looking at it say, I'm not sure anyone's taken that team further than he just took them, and anyone who doesn't is going to be deemed a failure. Maybe that isn't as attractive a coaching job as we think it is.
I would agree with you, Greeny, especially with the coaches they have talked to, right? All these coaches are coming from winning programs, except for Quinn Snyder somewhat, but everybody else is comfortable. They've been to the playoffs, they've been to the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals, but this is the Knicks, man.
Right.
That's just how it works, you know what I mean? But if I'm them, I'm going to take a stance like Jay said, man. I don't want to rush into getting a coach without knowing what my roster is going to look like, right? I want to take my time and build my roster and see how it looks, especially with being the only team that has a coaching vacancy. I have time. I don't want to rush anything.
There are a lot of people who are expressing a lot of support for Mark Jackson. He's a very popular figure in New York. He's a New York kid. He played for the Knicks. You don't need me to tell you who that is. And Rick Pitino and many others have suggested him. Is there any reason he's waited a very long time and still never gotten another opportunity? Is there any reason to think that he has a real chance here?
I have not heard any indication that Mark Jackson is a candidate at this point.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that would like to see it for him one way or the other. There's a lot of sentiment for Jeff Van Gundy. I don't know that either of those are likely here.
Yeah, I love Mark. I think if you're looking at it and you're just being objective about it, he's been out of the league for a very long time. It's a very different league than when he was with the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
NBA